Welcome to yet another ethical hacking video, and today we'll be covering the Mr. Robot CTF or the Mr. Robot box. And with this we'll be using different tools to try to see if we can manage to gain access to this particular machine. And to be able to follow along, you need to download the Mr. Robot box from VanHub. I'll put the link in the description, and with that I think we can get started. So basically what I want to do, first of all, I need to gather information about this particular box. See, I already installed it in my virtual box and it requires me to log in, and I don't have a username and a password, so that is the first challenge that you're supposed to solve. You're supposed to obtain the IP address of that particular machine. Then after that, we are going to scan for the services that are running on that particular machine using Nmap, and if they are web servers, we're also going to do a directory brute force to see the list of subdomains that we might find there. If maybe we find an admin page, we're going to brute force that particular admin page, and then we are going to try to see if we can get a reverse shell from that particular web server, and then after that we can try to do some privilege escalations. So we can get started. So the first step that I want us to do, I want us to get the IP address of this machine. Netdiscover is a tool that is used to scan for devices that are connected to the same network as your main machine. So I'm going to wait to see if I can get the IP address of that machine. Okay, and you can see I've been able to obtain the IP address of that machine. So I'm going to put that IP address somewhere. So step 1 is complete. We have been able to obtain the IP address of that particular machine. So what I want to do next, I want to scan that particular machine using Nmap to see a list of services that are running on that particular machine. So I'm going to say Nmap. I prefer using the aggressive scan because with the aggressive scan I'm able to get a lot of information about that particular machine, including the service versions that are running, OS enumeration, and also it's going to scan for vulnerabilities if we have any vulnerabilities. Then I'm going to save my scan, and with that we're able to receive our Nmap scan. We can see port 22 is closed, so SSH service is not available. You can see port 80 is open and it's running Apache, so it means it has a web application running on that port. Then we have port 443 also running, and down here we can see it's a Linux 3.13. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to visit this particular web application to see what is inside there. So I'll go to my browser, then I'm going to put the IP address, or instead of the IP address, let's create a let's add the IP address to the sources list so that I will be able to work with the host name instead of the IP address. So most of the CTF challenges, they require you to work with host names instead of the IP addresses. So to edit the host name, we are going to go to the /etc/host file. Then inside here, I'm going to have 192. I can say sudo. Okay, now I think I have the correct permissions. 192.168.100.35. And then I'm going to call it Mr. Robot. Then if I say ping -c, then 5 times Mr. Robot, I should be able to get the ping request, meaning that the host name is working. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump to my browser. I'm going to say http://Mr. And with that you can see our host name is working, and we have a boot sequence here. Okay, so if I view the source code. Okay, so it's a JavaScript that is running. That's why we're able to see these animations, and we have a message here. Okay, then we are presented with some commands that we are required to run. So for example, if I say prepare, so after digging around, I was not able to find any useful information, only a set of cutscenes from the Mr. Robot series. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a directory enumeration using GoBuster to see if we can see list of hidden directories that we can use. So I'll jump back to my terminal, and we have this command here that we can use, the GoBuster, whereby we are going to do a directory brute force. So we have GoBuster, then dr for directory brute force, then we have the URL. So I've used the host name here, and then we have a word list that we are going to use. I'm going to use this common.txt from DRB, which is very popular when it comes to directory brute force. Then the other thing that I want to do, I want to save my results. I can say web scan. I'm going to call that file web scan. So I can see my directory enumeration results are here, and we can see we have some subdomains that we might look at also. Okay, then according to the information we have down here, we have WP admin, WP content, WP includes, and WP settings, meaning that this might be a WordPress website. We are going to confirm that in a minute. Then we have the robot.txt file that we are going to look at. Basically, I don't see any other thing interesting apart from the robot.txt file and the WP admin. So the robot.txt file, it's a text file that is inserted in the root of a website, and it enables search crawlers to know which particular places it should visit and what places it's restricted to visit. For example, you can see here we have the WP admin. You might restrict it from accessing this particular subdomain. So I went on and did a Nictoscan, and these are the results that we got. And down here you can see it got the admin page, and then we have the wp-config.php. So this one is to confirm that this is a WordPress website. The next thing that I want to do, I want to visit this robot.txt page and see what we can get there. So on opening robot.txt file, you can see we have these files that are listed here. We have the fsociety.dic, then we have key1 of 3.txt. So meaning that we need to find the other two keys. So we have found the first key, and then we have this particular file here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to download them using wget to see what is inside these two files. So I'm going to say wget http, then I'll basically grab the name of that file and I'll download that. Then let me download this other file, which I assume is the key or the first key. And with that, I have both of my files. So file S, you can see we have fsociety.dic, and then we have key1 of 3. So let's see what's inside the key. Here we have this particular string of characters. Upon checking the fsociety, maybe I can cut to see what is inside there. You can see we have a long list of words that I'm just going to cancel. So this particular file is the one that is supposed to maybe contain a list of users or passwords that we might use, to do user enumerations. So the next thing that I'm going to do I'm going to visit the login page. So mrrobot/wp login, and you can see we are presented by a WordPress login, meaning that this is a WordPress website. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to test default credentials, for example admin and admin. And you can see when I try to log in with those credentials, I get an invalid username. Meaning that the message will be different if we had a valid username, because if we have a invalid username, it's able to detect. So if we had a user name that is valid or a username that is in this particular system, we might get a different message. And to do that, I'm going to jump to Burp Suite to be able to play around with different usernames to see the results that I will get. And if we get a different result for a different username, we can try to take that username and try to brute force for the password for this particular login screen or this particular WordPress login page. Okay, so coming back to my terminal, we had these two files that we downloaded. We have the fsociety.dic and the key 1 out of 3. So this is just a key that we are supposed to collect. So we have found the first key. So I want to maybe do a word count of this particular file to see how many words or characters are inside that particular file. So I'm going to say wc-l, then that name, and you can see we have a lot of characters. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove maybe the words that have repeated themselves, remove duplicates to see if I can have fewer words more than that, because if you are going to use it as a file that we are going to brute force, it's going to take long because we have a lot of words. So let's maybe remove duplicates, and I'm going to use the sort command, and then I'm going to be removing or filtering for unique characters, and then for the results I'm going to save them in a file called newwords.txt. And if I less, you can see now we have newwords.txt. And you can see now this one has been brought down to 11,000 characters compared to the one that had 8,508 characters. So we have shrinked it, removed duplicates and all that. So to test that login page, I'm going to jump to Burp Suite, and Burp Suite usually has a built-in browser. I think we can use that. I'm going to copy the URL for that login page, and I'm going to open it in the Burp browser. As I've told you, Burp Suite has a browser, and then I'm going to turn on the interceptor so that we can intercept all the traffic that is being sent. Then I'm going to say admin, then admin again, then login, and with that you're able to get this particular request here. And when we analyze the request down here, you can see login admin admin, and it's going to check if that user is valid, and if that is going to check if that user is valid or if we have a user with that particular name on our system, and also it's going to confirm the password. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send it to the intruder. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to send it to the intruder. So in the intruder section, we'll be able to play around with the different payloads to test and see if we can get a different message from the one that we are getting. Because if I go back here to proxy and I click forward, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this by adding a payload there, and then what I want to do, I want to for my payload configuration, I want to add a file that we can use. So I've added the file that we created. This file that we filtered from the fsociety.dci is the one that I'm going to use as my payload. And as you can see, I've loaded it in the Burp suite. So what you're going to do, you're just going to click load, then you're going to select the location of where you added your, where you created your file. So I'm going to click start attack. So basically what we want to see if we can get a username that gives us a different length of results, and the one that will give us a different length of results, we are going to take that username and try to log in with that particular username and see what results we get there. Then if it gives us maybe a valid user, then we can try brute forcing that particular username. So my intruder brute force attack is done. Upon analyzing the results that we got, there is this particular user here who I'm getting a different compared to the others. You can see I have 4108 compared to the default one, which was 4058. So I can try these two users because I'm getting different results here to see if one is a valid username. You can see we get a different error message. That's why we got a different payload length. You can see the password you enter for user Elliot is incorrect, meaning that Elliot might be one of the users that are found on this particular WordPress website. So we can use this username and this error message to brute force for the password of this particular user. So jump back to my terminal, and here I have a Hydra command that I've specified the time because most of the time this brute forcing take a lot of time, so I want it to run at this particular time. Then for the username, we are going to use Elliot, and then for the word list or the password file, we want to use the new words.txt, the one that we extracted from the fsociety file. Then I'm going to give the IP address, and then you can see we have specified that it's an HTTP post form because Hydra can brute force different protocols such as SSH and RDP. So we have specified that it's a HTTP request, the post request, and then we have given the page that we want it to brute force, and then this is the placeholder for the username and the password, and then we want to see which particular password will not give us the incorrect error message. So I'm going to say enter. And with that, you can see we have been able to brute force for the password. So you can see login Elliot, then this is the password. So I'm going to copy that password, and I'll jump back to my browser or the login page. I'm going to paste that password there, then login. And with that, you can see we are inside the dashboard of that particular WordPress website, and you can see it's Elliot Alderson account. So the next step is to get a reverse shell so that we can be able to get a shell to interact with this web server. So I'm going to show you the easiest way that you can get a reverse shell when you have access to the dashboard of a WordPress website. So you'll go to appearance and then go to editor, and then maybe you can edit some of these PHP files that are here. So the one that I'm going to edit this 404 template. So for this template, it's used when you try to search for a page that does not exist in that particular WordPress website. So if you visit a page that does not exist, you're supposed to be presented by a 404 page. So it's easy for me to trigger a 404 page. So I'm going to add my payload here, and you're going to use the Pentest Monkey reverse shell script. So I'll put the link in the description. and you can see we have a PHP code that will enable us to have or to obtain a reverse shell from this particular web server. So I'm going to copy that particular PHP file. And basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up here, then I'm going to add my code there. Then what you are going to do, we are going to change the IP address here to the IP address of our machine, and then we are going to have a port here, so maybe I can listen on port 444. Okay, then I have my Kali machine IP address here. Then after that, I'm going to update the file, and you can see file edited successful. So I'll jump back to my terminal, and then I'm going to create a listener using the netcat tool. So I'm going to say nc-listen, then verbosity, then the port, then we have port 4444. So I'm listening for any connections or communications that will occur on our WordPress website. So what I want to do, I want to trigger the 404 page by visiting a page that does not exist. So maybe I can say hello. I know that page does not exist, and with that you can see this Mr. Robot page cannot be found, and we have been able to get a reverse shell from the web server. And right here, if I say ls, you can see we're inside the web server. So after obtaining the web server, maybe we can try to look around and see what we can be able to find inside here. So I've ls, and you can see we have some files here. So what basically I usually do most of the time, I usually visit the home directory to see if we have any other users inside that machine. So cd home, and then ls, and you can see we have a user called robot. So cd robot, then ls, then -l. Then down here you can see we got key number 2, and then down here we have a password.rowmd. I assume that might be an encrypted password, so maybe we can cut that file and see. Okay, and you can see I think this is this particular user called robot password, so I'm going to copy it. We can brute force this particular hash using John the Ripper, but every time I obtain a hash, first I start with an online cracking tool. Then if it's not able to crack the password, I can move to something like John the Ripper or Hashcat. So we'll start with the online tool, then I'll come back to John the Ripper if you're not able to crack that hash. So the online tool that I'm going to use the CrackStation online password cracker or online password hash cracker. Then I'll paste my hash there. I'll confirm that I'm not a robot. So after verifying I'm not a robot, I'm going to click crack hashes. And with that, you can see it was a very simple hash that it was able to crack. And this is the password, so I'm going to copy that. And let's try to log in as that particular robot user. So I'm going to say su robot, and you can see su must be run from a terminal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a command that is going to give us a tty shell so that we can be able to run commands such as su. So to make sure that this command works, I'm going to check if we have Python installed. And you can see Python is installed, so meaning that this particular command is going to work, which will give us a bash shell instead of this shell that we are getting here. And with that, you can see we have been able to get the shell. So I'm going to say su, then robot. For the password, I'm going to copy that password that we obtained. I'm going to paste it here. And with that, you can see I've been able to log in as that particular robot. You can see who am I, robot. Okay, so the next step is to do a privilege escalation. We're going to do a privilege escalation of this particular user so that we can try to see if we can become the root user or we can get some privileges. So basically what that command is going to do is going to search for files that have SUID bits. And when we talk about SUID bits, we are talking about set user ID bits, which are specific Linux permissions that allow an executable file to run with the privileges of its owner. So basically those files are allowed to run as root. So that's what we are trying to search using that particular command. And on our machine, we have some of them here. You can see we have a very long list. So there is this website that you can use to search for each particular file here and see the type of commands that you are going to need to exploit that particular file to be able to get the root privileges. So the website we are going to use is this GTFO bins. Okay, and it's a very nice website when it comes to privilege escalation, because it enables you to see how you can exploit different binaries on your Linux system to be able to get the root shell or to be able to become the root user. So basically from the results that we got, I'm going to go searching one by one each file to see which file will be able to give us the root privilege. So we'll start with this ping. So I'm going to say ping. Okay, so we don't have ping here, so maybe I can search for another file, maybe mount. You can see we have mount there. Okay, and for mount, I'm supposed to run this particular command. So upon digging through, so I tried a bunch of files here, so most of them did not work. So I saw that we have an Nmap executable or an Nmap binary file here. I think we can try this to see if it works. I've tried the others, they are not working, and others are not available. So let's try this Nmap. So I've searched for Nmap in that website, and you can see I need to run the Nmap -interactive, and then when it brings this Nmap shell or Nmap terminal, I'm supposed to run this command. So I'll just copy this and I'm going to paste it to my terminal. Okay, and you can see I was supposed to run !, then sh, and with that I should be the root user. You can see I'm the root user. So if you say ls, we are still in this particular folder or the home for the root user. So I'm going to cd to the root folder, then ls, and then you can see we get the last key, and then we have this first boot _done. Basically we have managed to become the root user. So if I cut /etc/pass, not pass wd, the shadow file, you can see we are able to read the shadow file. So that's it for this challenge, and in this challenge we are supposed to obtain the IP address. So I've shown you the tool that you can use to obtain an IP address of any device connected to your machine. Then we did an Nmap scan to see the services that we are running, and we discovered we had a web application. And upon visiting that web application, we saw it's a WordPress website whereby we needed to brute force for the username and the password to be able to log into that admin dashboard, whereby we are able to create a shell whereby we are able to insert a reverse shell code which we obtained, and we are able to use that reverse shell code to log into a different user where we obtain the password. And with that we did a privilege escalation with that robot user, and we are able to become the root user, which was the main objective of this challenge. So if you like this type of walkthroughs or CTF walkthroughs, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and also in the comment section you can comment down which other challenge you'd like me to solve. You can check this video here whereby I do a deep dive on Nmap, teaching you different scanning techniques that you can use with Nmap. Or you can check this other video here whereby I'm explaining how to use the Shodan search engine, whereby you can be able to find vulnerable devices that are connected to the internet. So see you in the next video.